What is going on, guys? Money Webby here, back again, Week 11 with my favorite DFS picks of the Week 11 slate. A few guys at every position I'm extremely high. I think they have great matchups and can go off in their spots. So before we get going, be sure to definitely leave a like in the video. It goes a long way so I can continue to bring these videos to you every single week. And if you happen to be new here and haven't subscribed, definitely do so to continue to get these videos. I also do NBA DFS picks every single day. So if you play NBA, you can definitely subscribe to get these videos. So really appreciate that. Thank you for all the support. Let's get into it though. Drew Brees first up here. The matchup is just way too good. Pretty straightforward. This game is the highest over-under on the main slate with 56 points. It should be a fast pace. It should be a shootout in the dome here where Drew Brees is a god. He's averaging 29 DraftKings points in the 4 games here, so there's not much to it. Eagles secondary is also banged up. Their cornerback play is pretty terrible, so I think their passing attack is going to be the way they move up and down the field against this Eagles defense. So I'm going to go ahead and lock in Drew Brees there as my first guy. Then I'm going to go with Carson Wentz on the other side of the ball. Like I said, I think this game has the best chance of this being super high scoring. A lot of passing, a lot of scoring back and forth, and I think Wentz could be very good just coming from behind in this game because I could see the Saints getting up, and Wentz has to go and pass attack like he kind of did last week against the Cowboys where they were coming from behind, and he had a solid game with 25 DraftKings points, even though he didn't play very well in the first half. So that could be a similar kind of situation here in this one. And this is a huge game for the Eagles. They're 4-5. They need a W here, so Wentz has to bring his A game. And I think he'll bring his best performance here going against a bad Saints pass defense. Or run defense is pretty solid, so they're going to have to pass the ball a lot here in this game. So Wentz is my second favorite guy, so I think it's definitely worth your while to pay up for a guy like Drew Brees or Carson Wentz. But then I think you can go, if you don't want to pay for them, I think you can actually make some good value on this slate. There's a lot of guys here that are kind of underpriced, and I think Eli Manning, honestly, could have a solid week just based on his price tag. He hasn't played too bad by the fantasy production over the last few weeks, 19, 17, and 23. And a guy at 5,200, like that's a huge salary relief compared to a guy at 6,200. That's $1,000 you can save up for paying for another guy. Like that's a big difference between a guy like 7,800 for running back compared to 6,800. Could go a long way. So Eli Manning here, 5,200. They just match up really good against the Buccaneers because Pro Football Focus actually has the Buccaneers graded out as the worst pass rushing unit, and that's really the biggest downfall of this Giants offense is that when they get a defense that can rush the passer, they kind of just crumble. Eli Manning isn't great at maneuvering through the pocket nowadays, and their offensive line can be a little bit bad. So I think with that bad pass rush, it will give more time for guys like Odell Beckham, Sterling Shepard, Ingram, all to get open, and also Saquon Barkley can be very good receiving the ball. So I think Eli Manning could get, honestly, around 300 yards passing in this game and throw for around like 2 or 3 touchdowns. So 5,200, really good value there, even though he's like not playing very well. They just match up really good there, and that's a really good price tag. So that's my quarterbacks. And now for running back, I think Ezekiel Elliott, honestly, is a pretty damn solid value here in this game against the Atlanta Falcons. Kind of how they match up with the Falcons. I think Ezekiel Elliott can honestly go for over 100 yards rushing. And then you get some added upside with the fact that the Falcons can't cover any running back. They allowed a lot of receiving yards over the whole entire year to running backs, and even Nick Chubb killed them in both facets of the game. He ran for 176 rushing yards and also got 3 grabs for 33 yards receiving, even though Nick Chubb has rarely received the ball this whole entire year. So I think Ezekiel Elliott could get like 5 grabs in this game and also rush over 100 yards. So he has huge upside here. He could go over 150 total yards and get 2 touchdowns, kind of similar to what he did last week against the Eagles. And this is a much worse defense compared to the Eagles, just based on how they match up against running backs. So at 8,500, I think this game could be fairly high scoring against the Falcons in their own dome. So I like Ezekiel Elliott there at 8,500. And for my second guy, a little bit of a leverage play here, but Leonard Fournette. This could be a really huge volume week again for a guy like Fournette. Obviously, there's that concern that he gets hurt again. Like this guy gets hurt. Seems like every other week his hammy is kind of pulling up, tightening up, and he has to leave the game. But if he is good to go here in this game, He plays the whole entire game. This is a guy that could honestly get around 30 touches again here in this game. It was like a negative game script for him against the Colts last time out, and he still got 29 touches, posted 27 DraftKings points, and he averaged 2.2 yards a carry. So, like, Fournette was pretty much as bad as he could be, and he still posted 27 DraftKings points. And against the Steelers defense, they're pretty solid against the run, but Christian McCaffrey got the better than last week. He was able to rush very well against them, and also he looked really good in the receiving game. So I think Fournette could get some receptions here in this game, maybe get around 4 or 5 again here, and also be able to rush a little bit. And also he'll be probably the touchdown guy if they get in close in the red zone. And the last two times against the Steelers defense last year, Fournette had some monster games. In the regular season, he won for 28 carries for 181 yards and 2 touchdowns. And in the playoffs, he won 25 carries for 109 rushing yards and 3 touchdowns. So he had some humongous games last year against the Steelers. Not sure why. I think maybe because the Steelers linebacker play is a little bit suspect, he was able to kind of run over those guys. But I guess we'll see again if he can do it. Just the value on his price tag at $6,900 based on his workload, and I think he'll be under-owned. So this is a really good leverage play. Could definitely be worth your while in GPP. So that's my second running back. For my third guy, Dion Lewis, this seems a little bit too cheap for a guy that's getting as many touches as he's been getting over the last few weeks, and I think he can be very productive against his Colts defense. He did struggle against the Patriots last week on a touch, like yards per touch kind of basis. I think he'll be able to bounce back pretty nicely here. The Colts linebacker play and their defense against pass catching running backs has not been very good this year. They've been top 5 in allowing receptions to running backs. So I think Dion Lewis could get some more receptions here in this game. It should be closer. Against the Patriots, it was kind of a blowout the whole entire game. So they really didn't need to pass the ball that much. He only had 2 catches. In this game, though, I think it should be closer. It should be a fairly high-scoring game, and I think Dion Lewis could get around like 5 catches out of the backfield here in this game. He's gotten over 20 touches the last 2 weeks and also got 19 in week 7. So he's trending up. His snap count has been very solid, around like 75% over the last few weeks. And the touches and just ability that he has at 4,800 is way too good to pass up. So that's my third running back. And for my final guy, Alex Collins. He's had a disappointing year, but this is kind of the week where he finally gets those those above average touch marks or just touches. In the last few weeks, he hasn't been able to get many touches, only 10, 13, and 14. But in this kind of game with Joe Flacco, it looks like he's out, and also they're going to be going to Robert Griffin and Lamar Jackson, who are running quarterbacks. I would imagine they're going to be doing a good amount of like read option kind of stuff and just running in general. So I think Alex Collins could definitely benefit from that with the dual threat ability of RG3 and Lamar Jackson. So I could see him getting around 15 to 20 touches in this game, and he's going against the Bengals defense that has struggled against running backs. They're allowing the 4th most DraftKings points to them. So at 4,400, a really solid value for a guy like Alex Collins that should get a boost in usage. He's been really inconsistent the last few weeks with his usage, but he can get closer to those 19 carries he got against Tennessee when he got 17 DraftKings points, and around the 18 he got against Denver when he got 16. So a really good value at 4,400. That's my final running back. And now for wide receiver, not much to it. I'm going to go with some pretty chalky guys, I would imagine, but the pair up with Drew Brees, Michael Thomas, the matchup is way too good for me not to mention again here. The Eagles' cornerback play is probably the worst in the NFL. Just looking at their cornerbacks now with all the injuries and stuff that they have. And Michael Thomas has been beasting the last 2 weeks. He won for 27 DraftKings points and a blowout against the Bengals. Might have had even a bigger game if that game wasn't so one-sided. And then against the Rams in a shootout, he won for 42 DraftKings points. So in this game, I think the Eagles will do a better job of keeping up here. So Michael Thomas, I think he can go over 100 yards receiving and be able to get a touchdown or 2. He's been very active in the red zone. He's tied for 2nd in the NFL with red zone targets of 20 on the year. And the Eagles' run defense, it's above average, so that should make the Saints pass the ball a little bit more here. And the number 1 option by far in the receiving game is Michael Thomas. So a Drew Brees, Michael Thomas stack just makes way too much sense. So that's my first wide receiver. And then we're going to stack up Alshon Jeffrey with Carson Wentz if you want to go down that route. I think Jeffrey has the best matchup of these Eagles receiving options. The Saints have done a really solid job of limiting tight ends this year. So maybe Zach Ertz takes a little bit back in this one and only gets around like 6 to 7 catches or something like that, and Jeffrey kind of becomes that go-to guy based on the matchup. Like, he's going to be lining up against Eli Apple, who's been abysmal in his career, and Lattimore will be on the left side, and Jeffrey should avoid him for the most part. So that means they should be going to Jeffrey a lot here in this game. I could see him getting over 10 targets, and I could see him having one of those big games that he's shown the ability to have on this Eagles team. He had 27 DraftKings points and 21 DraftKings points in 2 games and 27 against the Titans. So when the team kind of matches up with them on the bad side, like when he has plus matchups, he did struggle against Jacksonville and against Xavier Rhodes, but when he gets plus matchups, normally he takes advantage of it, and I think this is one of these kind of matchups where he does. So at 6,300 in a shootout, I think he has a huge week. So that's my second wide receiver. For my third guy, I'm looking at Kenny Golladay. I mean, this makes way too much sense as well. With Marvin Jones out for this week. We had Golden Tate traded the other week. So there's so much targets on the table that should be going to a guy like Kenny Golladay. He's the most talented wide receiver by far left on this Lions team, with Jones out of the picture now with that injury. So he had 13 targets last week against a stingy Bears defense, and now he's going against Carolina. Their defense isn't great against passing, and we saw Antonio Brown and stuff kind of roast them last week. So I think Kenny Golladay can have a huge week here. When he's gotten the targets, he's had some huge games, like the 13 last week. 1 for 19 DraftKings points. He had 9 against Green Bay, 19 DraftKings points, 9 against San Fran, 20 DraftKings points, 12 against the Jets, 21 DraftKings points. So when he's given opportunities, normally he does well with them. So at 5,800, I think he can flirt with around 20 DraftKings points yet again here. So that's a very good option as well, Kenny Golladay. For my final guy, Corey Davis. He looked extremely good last week against the Patriots, lining up against Stephon Gilmore, probably one of the best cornerbacks in the NFL now in coverage. He's been really good at limiting wide receivers, but Corey Davis honestly got the better of him last week. So that was really impressive on his just front. And then this matchup going against the Colts, he has a much better matchup. The Colts kind of struggle against outside of wide receivers. They have a really good slot corner and Kenny Moore, but I think Corey Davis can have a huge week here in a game where the Titans might lean on the pass game a little bit more, as the Colts do have a solid run defense. So I can see the Titans kind of spreading them out a little bit more here, going shotgun, and Corey Davis getting around like 10 targets yet again here. He's had 20 targets the last 2 games. And it should be a fairly high-scoring game. Like the last 2 games, they haven't even been like kind of shootouts. Like the Cowboys really couldn't score, the Patriots really can't score. So if Andrew Luck and the Colts can keep this close, then I think Corey Davis can get another huge week here where he gets like 7 catches for around maybe 100 yards yet again here. So a really good value at 5,600. So for the most part, I'm kind of paying up at wide receiver with guys like Michael Thomas, Jeffrey, and then you can kind of go mid-tier with Golladay and Corey Davis. All those guys are extremely good options. I think there's a lot of good value, though, at running back, like I mentioned, with guys like Dion Lewis, Alex Collins, even maybe Phillip Lindsay, and some of these other guys at running back, even Theo Riddick with all the pass-catching guys down in Detroit. So that's kind of how I'm thinking about my build so far, paying up a wide receiver, paying down a little bit at running back. And then now at tight end, I'm going to go with Austin Hooper here at 4,500, going against the Cowboys, a team that has really good cornerback play. And Austin Hooper, he's been running a ton of routes this year, an elite mark, and he had a huge week last time against the Cleveland Browns. He wasn't very effective, but 10 catches is extremely good. He had 9 catches against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So it was just his ability on the field, and the Cowboys' solid cornerback play can definitely open some things up. And at 4,500 in a game where the Falcons are probably going to have to be passing the ball a good amount, I think he can have a huge week there yet again. And for my second guy, Vance McDonald here at 4,000, going against Jacksonville. He had a humongous game against them. In the playoffs, he went for 10 for 152. So he had like a bajillion drafting points probably in that game. And in this matchup, again, against the Jacksonville Jaguars, they're getting A.J. Boye back. So that means they got their nice duo of cornerbacks of Jalen Ramsey and Boye back in the picture, and that could open some things up yet again here for Vance McDonald, who's coming off a nice week against the Carolina Panthers, 4 for 41 and a touchdown. So like in these games where they need him to step up, he normally steps up when there's like solid outside cornerback play. Like against the Baltimore Ravens, he went 5 for 62. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, he had a huge game, 4 for 112 and a touchdown. So he has a huge upside. And at 4,000, they need him to step up against the Jacksonville defense that has good outside cornerback play, solid run defense. I think he can have a big week there as my second tight end. And then Jared Cook, there's a ton of injuries on this Oakland Raiders passing game with the Jordy Nelson banged up, Martavius Bryant banged up. They need Jared Cook to be involved a lot more here in this game script, most likely. He had 9 targets last week, one of his heaviest targeted games of the year. And when he normally gets a lot of targets, he normally has some huge weeks. Like he had 12 against the Rams, 30 DraftKings points, 13 against the Browns, 34 DraftKings points, 9 last week. He had 9.2, and the Chargers have really good defense against tight ends. So I think here against the Cardinals, their defense against tight ends is okay. But Jared Cook, they're just going to need him to step up. Like, he's a really solid tight end when he's given the opportunities. Obviously, the Raiders' offense is pretty damn bad, but 3,900, a battle of 2 terrible teams. I think Jared Cook can do enough here just to get some garbage time points maybe and just have some, like, empty kind of fantasy points where he's just moving down the field and the Raiders aren't doing anything with it, but he's been being able to rack up a lot of yards and stuff like that and a lot of catches with just so many nobodies around him. He needs to step up here at 3,900, and it's a solid matchup here going against the Cardinals. So that's my final tight end. So you got Jared Cook, Hooper, and Vance McDonald. And now for defense, I think the Arizona Cardinals are a really good spot even against the Raiders because their pass rush is really solid with a guy like Chandler Jones, and Derek Carr is very bad against pass rushes. Like, he normally gets sacked a ton. So I think the Cardinals could get sacked by the bunches here in this game and be able to rack up some drafting points in that regard. So at 3,100, like them a lot. Then the Texans here, going against Alex Smith, an offensive line that's really banged up. I think J.J. Watt and Clowney could really get after the quarterback here in this matchup. And the Redskins offense is just really beaten up in general. Their offense does not look very good. And I think the Texans can do some damage against them in that game. And then from a final one, the Jaguars are an interesting play here with A.J. Boyd back. And at 2,200, like, I think they're a nice flyer. I mean, it's supposed to be one of the best defenses in all of football. And they got to get it going eventually. It doesn't want to load. There we go. The Jacksonville Jaguars here. They've been extremely bad this year. But, I mean, the upside is still probably there. I mean, it's not like last year that it was just like the biggest fluke of all time. They got to have some ability left in that defense. And at 2,200 here, I think they can just do enough where it's road Big Ben. He normally isn't very good on the road. He had one of his worst games of the year last year, I think, here in Jacksonville. And maybe they could do that again where they make him throw a lot of picks and stuff like that. Big Ben can be very up and down, and he is kind of due for a bad game. I mean, Big Ben, it seems like every like 3 weeks he's just having a terrible game. So maybe this is one of those games where the Jaguars are able to get to them. And this is an extremely important game if the Jaguars want to have any chance of making the playoffs. So at 2,200, a nice flyer. I mean, you're getting like the worst, I mean, like the best price defense. I mean, you're getting one of the best defenses like coming into the year. They were supposed to be one of the best defenses, if not the best defense. And now you're getting them at 2,200 among these terrible defenses down here. So definitely the cost, I think, is worth it for the Jacksonville Jaguars. So that's it for the plays, though. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Definitely leave a like if you did. You can comment any questions. You can comment any questions down below if you have any questions. And definitely subscribe, like I said, if you want to continue to get these videos. So good luck this week, and we'll see you back here again next time.